So hi, I'm Megan. I've worked on the project for about 2 years now. I've just recently moved down to Bristol to take over the sort of day-to-day management of the project, alongside doing some of the long-term database tidying up and some analysis of that.
Yes, I'm Ben, and I'm doing a PhD. And so for first year of my PhD, I went out to South Africa to study the Dwarf Mongooses, and I've been sort of conducting some field playback experiments with the Dwarf Mongooses, and then I've also been looking at some long-term database stuff. So they're not the only thing I'm doing in my PhD, but it's definitely a sort of big focus of the overall PhD.
So the work varies depending on the time of year. So in summer, when it's very hot, we get up very early, we head out, we find the mongooses at their sleeping burrow before they wake up, and then we spend the entire morning with them. So the first thing we do is we weigh them in the morning, and then we follow them when they go out to forage for the day, and then we'll weigh them again at lunchtime. And then, so that's in the summer when it's hot, so we come back, the mongooses usually go inactive and have a nap during the heat of the day. So we come back for lunch, and then we'll head back out in the afternoon, usually find them again in the exact same spot, and then we'll follow them as they forage for the evening, and then get back to their evening sleeping burrow, and we'll take evening weights there. So the sleeping burrows are usually like a termite mound or a tree, something along those lines. And then in winter, they're pretty much like on a 9-to-5 schedule, which is quite nice. So we go out and we just spend the entire day with them, to continue taking those free weights, but we just have lunch with them. And what we collect, or most of our research assistants will collect throughout the day, is we look at any groomings, so see which individuals are grooming which, and then every 15 minutes we'll do a scan, so we either do a foraging scan or a sentinel scan. And the foraging scan, we look at who's foraging next to who, and that's to look at the social bonds, you like to forage next to your friend. And then the sentinel, we look to see who's contributing to the group and keeping an eye out.
Yeah, so a lot of my day was sort of, for the first few months, was sort of getting used to the mongooses and doing that sort of day-to-day stuff. And then the projects that I was sort of interested in, we were looking at their vocalizations and something called their movement calls. So when they're sort of foraging in a group, they will, so they'll spend most of the day foraging as a group together, and then if an individual wants to sort of move off and forage elsewhere, or move elsewhere for whatever reason, they produce this, what we call a movement call, and so it's this sort of fast, repetitive vocalization. And so we're sort of interested in this movement call, and how individuals responded to this call. So for the sort of first few months when I went out there, it was mostly taking a big microphone out to sort of record different individuals. So yeah, just spend sort of hours a day with each group, pointing this microphone at them while they're foraging, and when they're trying to move, and yeah, just trying to record their vocalizations. And then sort of on sort of spare time or during the evening, it would be sort of making these playback tracks out of the recordings. So yeah, you make the playback tracks, and then we'd do some playback experiments. And so that would essentially involve going out to the groups. And for my experiments, we'd pick a sort of focal subordinate, so just one individual. We're interested in seeing how they respond, and we'd play back, so in a movement call, for example, and then we'd essentially record how they respond to the movement call. And so, yeah, so most of the time I was probably doing these playback experiments. And then, yeah, so carry these out, come back to Bristol, and then it's a case of sort of extracting the data from, so when I did them, I filmed them with GoPros. So you extract the data, and then it's a case of trying to analyse that. And so we're currently trying to write that up into a paper at the moment. So yeah, hopefully it won't be too long till we sort of submit it. Yeah.
Yeah, my favourite mongoose is called T. We have 8 habituate groups, and each group has a theme. So he's in teaspoons. So he's just a very cheeky little mongoose. Teaspoons are quite a new group, so they're one of the harder groups in terms of habituation levels. So it takes them a bit of a while to get used to you. Whereas T in that group is just very cheeky, quite friendly. my favourite one.
Yeah, probably. So there's a pub called Dwarf, and so this group was called Half Pints. So they're named after drinks essentially. So like there's one called Captain Morgan, for example, and yeah, so someone named it Dwarf, and yeah, funny name, and it was just this really round, cute pub that was, I think, probably fair to say, the runt of the litter.
Yeah.
And he was just a little bit slow, so you know you'd hear like maybe there'd be like a bird in the sky, and sort of that's one of the predators. So they'd produce an alarm call, and so most of the group would sort of duck for cover, and then there'd be some times where Dubar is just sort of sat there on a rock, just completely oblivious. So he'd just be so yeah, he's yeah, very cute, a bit, yeah, maybe not the most this sort of smartest, but yeah.
I think being sort of in the African bush, there's a lot of things, you know, there's snakes, there's scorpions, I had a scorpion in my bed, just things like that you don't really expect.
I think, yeah, because I think we were there for a lot, so Meg was there for longer than me, but I was there for around 8 months. And I think when you've got a lot invested in your sort of, whatever you're doing out there, your projects, obviously you're sort of working fairly long hours, and then if you're sort of in the middle of running experiments and sort of something just goes wrong. So for example, we need the groups to be sort of relatively stable in terms of, we want like the same dominance in the group. If there's like a dominance change and a new mongoose comes in, it sort of interrupts your experiments a bit. So if you're sort of in the middle of doing these trials and then this happens, it can sort of, yeah, just be quite frustrating. I think for some reason the ticks really liked me, so I used to have quite a few ticks on me. But I mean, yeah, it's not that bad. It's just, yeah, sometimes when you're tired and it's hot and you've got a few ticks sort of on your leg, it's just like,
Going forward, I would quite like to go into a PhD, kind of stay in animal behaviour research, see what happens.
I think staying in animal behaviour if I can, it would be nice, either something like a postdoc, or I guess it's sort of cliche, but a lot of people want to do the sort of research for things like, you know, BBC, sort of nature documentaries and stuff like that. I think I also actually enjoy the sort of data analysis side of things as well, and the stats side of things, working in R, which, yeah, there's only sort of undergrads working on R at the moment that listen to this. Probably don't know why I'm saying that, but yeah, I think when you're doing a PhD, you realise there are things that you sort of, when you spend a lot of time doing, you actually start to sort of enjoy them.
So the project takes on research assistants, and we take them on for a 3-month period, just to give you a bit of experience with field work, sort of broaden your horizons as well, which is really nice. So yeah, we're always on the lookout for more research assistants, so that's my job. So you can get in touch with me, megan.layton@bristol.ac.uk is my email address. Yeah, send over a cover letter and CV. Obviously everything's a little bit up in the air because of COVID at the moment, but we're hoping things will sort of get back to normal pretty soon.